Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, listeners. It's me, Sulayman Ben Suwareh, coming back on Facebook Live. Today is the 30th of April, 2021. The time is just gone 17 minutes past 5 in the afternoon in Birmingham, England. Working in Balama 1 minute, share video and program we muna start. Unfortunately, Nekumadi, I'm coming see on my laptop. I don't know why, but I'll see if I can get that done. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, man la Sulayman Suwareh in your Facebook Live. I'm not seeing your comments. I don't know for what reason. I have to check that up later. But just to come back, Puwatan si Ramadan and to look at the bit of the headlines. And what I am trying to do is look at bit of the headlines to express some of my opinions on issues and what I might take on them. But I want to take a little bit down to put certain things of them presently in the country, and we should be very, very worried about this. I'm having more confirmation on this, and it's really worrying, and the silence of that more gonna worrying. But quickly, I want to go on to the testimony of Ami Ben Suwareh and get down to the testimony of Fatma Singati and so on. And if I said I'm going to these testimonies, let people not expect it's not about the personality, but a bit of the person itself, it's in there. But Damabuga you deal the content, the land testify on the content lab, Moneka, the bulk of what we're talking about. Obviously, the role they play is important. And why it is important is to learn lessons. It's not to take on to sabotage or anything else. That's not the essence here. That's not the essence here. But it's important. Testimonies are important. And I know the testimony of Fatma Singati look important to some of us. That's not what matters to me. What matters to me is the content itself. And I want to touch on that content properly. We start with in doing so, didn't hold background, the circumstance and environment we operate in. These are very important points to note to understand. And we'll take this again to what lessons we learn from it to our present conditions. We have to understand what led us to here. That's what I want to do with this. The testimony of Ami Ben Suwareh, um, look at the background of the testimony, the circumstances, the environment that was surrounding. This was like a rupture. Something had happened in 1981, the attempted coup in 1981. And she have touched a little bit part of that when there was resistance and the reason the resistance happened. She didn't go in properly into that. But in a nutshell, Ami Ben Suwareh, the government have completely collapsed in 1994. In 1994, but in 1981, the government was saved by the intervention, by the resistance and intervention, by resistance and intervention. In Balama, a thought just came onto me, and I want to capture this thought somewhere here before we go through. It's quite important. Okay, I'll just highlight here. Yeah, she's saying and explain the environment that was operated in, and it's very important. She said about Inspector General of the Police, Mr. Ablambo, may his soul rest in peace. Led resistance, and supported by a veteran from Bakau, Mr. Sergeant Usman Diallo. This is very important. Now, what actually happened there is a story that we don't tell. And actually, the only reason Ablambo led that resistance, it was because of that veteran Sergeant Usman Diallo. Yes, Sergeant Usman is my uncle, but I'll give you the background of the story because it's not something that's been talked about. That's not something been published, and we understand why the country is as it is. People that ultimately sacrifice would never be celebrated. When the coup happened, when it won't coup happened, we have the sacrifice of Kikalabande, because we remember Kikalabande took over from Ekumahoni. Ekumahoni was disposed of due to he was likely to be an obstacle for an overthrow. This was Kukai's, and it was only Kukai. It was a big conspiracy within the establishment, and Kukai hijacked the show. Ekumahoni was disposed of. Do we hear about Ekumahoni or anything? No. Then Kikalabande took over, and Ekumahoni was the first Gambian to head the field force, and the field force was the main force. Like it was like our army, and Ekumahoni was disposed of. Then Kikalabande took over, and within a short period, the day of the coup, Kukai Sambasanya and his people went to Kikalbande's house and slaughtered him. He was slaughtered. We don't hear about that. The veteran, Sergeant Usman Diallo, who was a World War II veteran, who continued to serve the Gambia Field Force and was an instructor, was retired, and he was serving as a security guard at the central bank. When he heard about the death of Kikala, that Kikala Bande was shot, he went to the house and saw what had happened, and he proceeded to work. But as a soldier, he said he proceeded to work. But My understanding and my discussion with him, he knew that something was unrolling, and he proceeded to where things are to happen in Banjul. He took the workers' bus that's from in the morning into Banjul, and he went and positioned himself at work, Central Bank. And the first thing in the morning, an assailant, someone came with a weapon, an AK-47. That person was part of Hooker's team and came in to take over the central bank. And this veteran was able to, with his bare hands, he was able to disarm this gentleman. And actually, that rebel became his first casualty. He killed the rebel. And he proceeded to the police headquarters. When he proceeded to the police headquarters, the Inspector General of Police was there with other senior officers. They did not put up resistance. They didn't know what was unveiling or how it was going to be dealt with. Then these veterans asked them what is in play here. They said that they suspect that there's insurgents and they have attacked the depot camp and they've taken the depot camp. The veteran dictated. I have to tell this story because it's not been told to put into this context, because people have heard this from had this name and no context. He actually initiated for a resistance to be built around the police headquarters towards the State House. And she asked for the vice president and the ministers. And he volunteered and also, set up a plan for the vice president and some of the ministers to be extracted who were within Banjul to come and to be kept within the police premises. And an operational command was built at the police premises and start to deal with this issue. And a corridor, and they made sure they have a safe corridor that they operate from the Banjul headquarters to the Senegalese embassy and to Central Bank. Around that perimeter there, they make sure they can operate when they want to, because their safe haven was the police headquarters, but they can go out and do raids and come back, which was very important. They had faith that something is going to come up. And that's where Senegal comes in. But another person that have not been mentioned is called Sergeant Walindo. After he became Walify, sorry. After he became WO2 Walify, he was a Deporean. May their soul rest in peace. All of these people out there, they're all people. They were our elders. Sergeant W2 Walify, they know him as Sergeant Walify then, 1981. He was the Amora. He was an Amora. The minute Depot was attacked, he jumped the fence and left. What he did, very strategic. He went straight to the Senegalese embassy. He didn't go to the American, he didn't go to the British, because he knew there's a pact between Gambia and Senegal. And in 1980, around that time, there's many times that Senegalese troops have come to the Gambia, anticipating that there was going to be coup. When Akumo Mohoni was killed that day, the Senegalese forces had to, when he was buried that day, Senegalese forces were on the ground. But before 1978, 1979, 1980, a contingent of British Gurkhas. British Gurkhas is a regiment, for people that would not know. It's a regiment of soldiers from the British Army. have been stationed in the Gambia, anticipating that there's going to be a coup. And why they were part of this, it's because of they got information, intelligence that the coup was going to be coming from the Eastern Bloc. This was the time of the Cold War. And when the coup came, we all know it had something to do with Marxist-Leninist ideology. This is why they were interested. Mr. Walifai ran to the Senegalese embassy and alerted the Senegalese ambassador. I think he was Mr. Menga, that the barracks have been attacked by unknown assailants. And because of that alarm he raised, the Senegalese ambassador was living in Fajara, opposite Casuarina, opposite where the vice president residence is now. That's by Fajara Hotel. He was just a bungalow there. The Senegalese ambassador drove out of Bakau that morning, early morning, and got into Banjul. That was the reason he managed to get into Banjul and obviously occupy his office. And because of the presence of the ambassador there, the vice president the Andrews Camara, was able to be escorted by these loyalist troops and escorted to the Senegalese ambassador High Commission office in Banjul. And that's where communication started to happen between the Gambia and Senegal. And then obviously Jawara knew about this resistance or this thing going on from this communication to Senegal, and Senegal obviously got in touch with Jawara. Jawara was so confident about the position role Senegal was going to play. Jawara volunteered and to leave UK and go straight to Senegal. And the UK government, which had previously have sent troops in the Gambia, wanted to, and Jawara said, look, let me get into Senegal. I think we'll be dealt with from there. But any assistance needed will. And the British did assist. It was a team of SAS soldiers that actually intervened and in order to rescue the family of the then president at the MRC. And it was the British SAS, but with intelligence from the American ambassador that make that happen. You see, this was the background that happened, that ordinary people saved the day. Ordinary people saved the day. Those people today we don't know. We don't hear about. And we don't know their lives, how they end up. But let's move on from there. That's one thing Amidan should have talked about, just point out. And obviously we have to give credit to the commander, Ablaye Mbub, for taking up that responsibility and put up that resistance. But would you know that after 81, Ablaye Mbub became one of the first casualty of the PPP government? He was appointed interior minister. And just for the next minute, rumors went on to say that actually he was part of the coup, 81 coup. And why am I saying this again? For us to learn. When we say social media, no. Social media is just a technology. It's a forum, it's a thing that amplifies things. It's been happening from ever. Ablaye Mbub was rescued from parliament, from cabinet, and sent to Senegal to finish up his service. That shows you the level of infighting that continued within the administration. And that was the situation. Obviously, Senegal come into the rescue. If Senegal did not come to the rescue, one other person I failed to mention who played a crucial role. If Senegal failed to come to the rescue, the bloodbath would have continued between us. With the resistance didn't have the capacity to move their position. No, they just holding down to assassinate there is a resistance, and there's a to keep the legitimacy of the government because it didn't fall. People, this thing, and it was not measured by the popularity from the people. No, the anti-Gambians were just naive. People supported just the coup, or so people just were took part or whatever it is. They don't even know. That's the problem. We need to educate ourselves and educate our people. But the resistance too was, thank God. Yeah, the rebels took over, but they don't have superiority of arms. They don't have superiority of arms. And these people could have, they have equal arms, ammunition, enough. They could have, hold back for a moment. But another gallant brother and soldier was the brother of Ndaunjai, called Mudunjai. Mudunjai was a sub-inspector, I think. I don't get me this thing in this. I don't know police ranks, but I cannot remember what his rank was. But he was a junior officer. Let's say he was a junior officer. He was based in Farafeni. The minute he heard about the insurgents, or the insurrection, or what you call it, rebellion, the fourth day, he started to navigate. He got a platoon. I'm not sure whether it's what his platoon, but he got a team of field force. And he led the team of field force when he heard that there's a resistance. Because remember, there was a communication. There was this police radio from Farafeni to head. And when he heard that there was a resistance in Banjul, he decided that he's coming to reinforce the resistance. Munjai traveled from Farafeni with his team, taking the River Gambia, taking a boat, the River Gambia to Denton Bridge. When he came to Denton Bridge, obviously he pretended that he was coming to support the coup. Because of the coup, the command and control of the coup was loose. They don't know who is who. That's how Munjai managed to maneuver to go to the police headquarters and supported the police supported the police. And the field force was part of the police. They were the support army unit of the police. Then that boosted this thing. These are other someone else that have not been mentioned. This is what caused the resistance. It's just a bit of history, but it's very important. It's a lesson to learn. To understand the background of it. But the other background we need to talk about, and we cannot move away from the background. An example of the background, it's Ami Ben Suwareh herself. And this explains the civil service. If you listen to the training, the kind of training Ami Ben Suwareh had under the Minister of Minister of Justice, under the Minister of Justice. And this training, we are all informed based on the need to capacitate the ministry and government. This is very important. You see, these are things that I keep on saying that this is what we had. There was a system from Jawara. There was a system from PPP, and civil service was one of them. It's something that we talked. But this is an important thing. Why I'm emphasizing that we find out the capacity that needed in government. And so they have it. To the extent of when she talked about going for a course to understand how the corporate governance work. And how privatization will work and all things. That was very insightful. And to understand how the country would be, because they had a plan. The footing that the country was being put onto to become a tax haven and all sort of kind of open up, liberalizing our markets for that capacity. But that's for her. But that gives you the example of the caliber of people that we have. running our civil service, being the permanent secretaries to deputy permanent secretary, directors to clerks, even messengers. The quality of people that we had, or the culture that was inbuilt in them, and to make sure they have what it takes. That's what development is. You have a system and you build on that system, you put in a structure. And the achievement, and I mean, it's from a very humble background. My background, from Bakau, from a very humble background. And remember again the period most of my, I tell you, most of my elder sisters were married off at primary six. Most of my elder sisters were married at primary six. And how many other women are not even attempting school? This is another thing to think of. This is another thing to think of. That's been her background, and the woman that managed to get to the levels she got to at that time, and the capacity they have, and where they went through to get these things. And the other point I want to raise is her explaining what the PPP government was at that time. And I'm just going to summarize. He talked about the economy, and he explained the economic program that was at that time by '94, where they are, from the problems they dealt with. You know, we have to understand that, and this is comparison. We have to compare it. I'm not saying, and she did not say, that Gambia was having, but compared to Senegal, compared to Guinea-Bissau, compared to Guinea-Conakry, compared to Mali, compared to other countries. You only say Ivory Coast. I mean, compared to many countries in Africa, Gambia was at a better footing economically. We know about the civil service. People used to come and study our civil service. We had programs. We went to, and the world at that time, by '94, things started to get better around the world. Remember the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the economic cycles that we went through. That's the war, and Africa for that matter, West Africa for that matter. Do we remember the drought? We went through a cycle of drought. How many years? Do we remember about the crop failures, the locusts, and other invasions? And agriculture was our dominant market. And in the 60s, we have to remember the coming of the world trade markets and all these challenges. And this was a new country. This was a new country that did not have its own currency, new country that did not have an economy, or literally nothing. A new country that literally was a village, a big village. We all see the pictures of Banjul itself. We all see pictures of other places. It's not buildings we have, but one thing we knew, it was the people. The caliber of leaders we had. They are not only, if I say leader, I'm not only talking about the PPP or the government. I am talking about the caliber of leaders from our society, civil society. I mean, the trade unions, the others and others, the youth, movements and so forth. So for the vibrancy of these youths, you have to appreciate it too. You have to know it to appreciate it then, to know how sophisticated some of these youths were at that time. That was the environment we had. But the achievement of the economic programs through the challenges, and they went through the ERP, which was nasty, and that's what reforms are, and got to a level in the sub-region. But they had a plan. The most important thing, they had a plan now. Okay, we are going to move on dependence on tax from the domestic. The base cannot be widened. We have to make sure we widen that base, but agriculture too, we have to find other ways. Now let's open up the country as a market. Let's open up to the market. And we are one of the, in mainland Africa, no country thought about this. They thought about this. The Singapore dream was this. You look at the geographical, I mean, the nature of Gambia and the nature of Singapore. Then how Singapore, where Singapore, the our approximately to the Atlantic and other things. I mean, the advantages we have for location for where we are, just as Singapore is a small population and everything else. Now we have to use knowledge to do something. We have to reposition ourselves. We have to put capacity into ourselves, our people, and this. We have to draw out the program. They did all that. That's what she explained. And we have to run through certain things. And that's why the economic recovery program came about and all this. And finally, the Gambia, I mean, economically, financial flow and other things started to get better. But that's one story. That's one story. The other story, and human rights, obviously compared. Look, that doesn't mean that there were no people that rights were not infringed on others. It had happened on others. But the healthcare system, I mean, we all know what we used to have. The health tourism was inwards. People coming from Guinea-Conakry to Mali, Senegal, coming to Gambia, opera Gambia more. Opera Gambia more. People coming from Dakar to come to our national health, whatever service we had. All that we know. Human rights. It was not, it was the best we have in the sub-region. Again, comparison doesn't mean that some people or certain people's rights were not infringed one way or the other. Yes, in some circumstances, some people were, victimized at the civil service. It happened. Journalists were victimized. Ashantics. We heard about Ashantics. We heard about other people. There are other. Yeah, there is. But comparison, it was heaven. But the corruption. The corruption, it's not to the level of what Jammeh was. It's not to the level of what we have now. But again, comparison to the small economy had. But one thing, and the corruption here again, obviously facilitated by ministers. You see, ministers, end of the day, even in the Fourth Republic, they don't end up earning from the corruption much. The corruption for ministers was patronage. It keeps them in office, keeps them to be elected. You see, at times when we talk about, we should make sure all our ministers are elected. Be careful. There's a downside of that. There's a downside of being elected in a poor country. That patronship comes into the executive. There's an advantage to say that the executive, it's taken from selected from the best, as the president have the leverage to select from the best of Gambians that he can. Not based on because of he have to have a small pool of people to select from. These are the people from his party, or these are the people elected. Then he had to take from these people, apart from the Minister of Justice, who is put right clear out in this thing that he has to be a lawyer, he has to be this, he has to be that. But every other person could be anybody. But the corruption of ministers, that's why when you look at corruption in the PPP government, most ministers, most ministers, you cannot see anything. You say, enough corruption when you're not ministers, you know. It's what they facilitated through the patronship. And this is, when we look at what is happening now, it's worse. Well, what Yahya Jammeh did was, obviously, he became because the patronship for Yahya Jammeh, yes, they had some of it. But the biggest slice is Yahya Jammeh, because patronship of Yahya Jammeh was not about inducing people with money or environment. It was about fear and controlling control. That was Yahya Jammeh had. But now, in a democracy here, it's not about fear. It's about entice, incentives to give to your patrons. And this was what happened in the Jawara government. And the biggest of this was something that most Gambians don't even hear about, the Agricultural Development Bank. Agricultural Development Bank. Yes, Gambia used to have an Agricultural Development Bank. Again, When we come to deciding areas, when we come to debate with the PDIS of creating their own bank, state banks don't do well. State banks don't do well. And we have to be very careful. Agricultural Development Bank, this thing, it's not like a cooperative bank. It's not a new idea. We had an Agricultural Development Bank. What's the fate of that? And I cannot remember the person who was the MD, but obviously it was not only the MD that broke the bank. The bank had a board and everything, but again, the patronship, the board, the MD and others broke the bank. The bank just gone. You don't hear about it. It's in the Sadauda book. Sadauda did make made explanation on that. The other thing was the cooperative. There was a cooperative union, which was very progressive. People that, some of us that had experience growing up in rural areas have seen the effect of the cooperative, the sectors and all the things. But end of the day, again, patronship corruption. There were people, exemption of people that become sector blood. But look, the patronship of the PPP controlled all the lucrative positions in the cooperative, up to the managing director of the cooperative. Now the cooperative become a complete corrupt institutions, but the farmers were victims. If a farmer take a loan, the farmer had to pay. But depend which farmer is it. If it is a farmer from a permanent cardinal, a family who commands votes, he gets away with it. The small farmers would lose. They would come and sell. I remember a government minister, agriculture minister, and this is it's Oje Jalo itself. I have to name it because it's very important for us to learn. And this was just before 1994. You see, people don't understand the many reasons why the government become unpopular. The arrogance of the government, the complacence of government, and this was in Jarosom. And it was 92, actually, it was 93, or 92 or 93, Jarosom. Because some farmers came out to say that, look, a farmer came out to say, look, the cooperative is seizing our stuff. They were impounding things to get back the credit from them. And this farmer said, look, but we know that the operatives of the cooperative are more corrupt and other people are not paying, why us? Instead of the minister Oyalo coming out to address the situation, or just said that, yeah, Kofi failed, who did not pay will take things off you. When the cooperative absolutely was absolutely gone. But in 1993, there was a major, there was an inquiry, commission of inquiry set up by Jawar to investigate the cooperative. But before that, there was a big scandal, the Asante scandal of Sebu Sabal and the cooperative union. You see, these are the issues. The level of corruption of the cooperative bankrupt. The cooperative was a mechanism sponsored by donor communities to help elevate the life of farmers, to build productivity in agriculture. These things are very important. I'm not going after the Jawara government. No. These are the other facts that we don't talk about. But these facts are very relevant right now. I will get to that when we get to today, the realities now. But the most famous one is Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank. And Commercial Bank broke the camel's back. And again, this is where I said, as Ben Suwareh said, there was a recovery because of the international community. There was a recovery, kind of a recovery mechanism put in place. That's where the AMRC came about. They liquidized the bank, they sold the bank to become Meridian and later Trust Bank, and then the Bank of Ghana, Social Security, and other shareholders bought shares and to own the bank. Again, the Agricultural Development Bank was a government bank itself. The Commercial Bank was government bank itself. It's very difficult. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It's very difficult. You have to be a very strong leader to do that. It's very difficult. Now, these things happen. The Commercial Development Bank was entirely, all the bad loans they talk about was the patrons of PPP. You see, they use the bank to keep their patrons who support the party. You see, that's where I said they undermine the democracy. You see, let's say Gambia was democratic to an extent. You see, these are kind of things that if the state depends not on their performance, and not on selling their policies, but state depends on taking resources and marginalize the entire majority of the people by empowering an elite to control. That's not democracy. Now and you are surprised when an insurance or what coup d'etat or whatever comes out of that country. You're surprised. And or if that thing come out, become popular. This is where it is. The commercial bank, we all know who they were. And again, it wasn't a tribe. No. It was a system. It was the PPP. If you were NCP and take a loan, you have paid, or you don't access a loan. If you were PWIS, you will have a loan. And others, you will have a loan. We all know people that had the loan have something to do with the PPP. And not only that, again, that arrogance. The person is late, but we all will know who it is. Not only people used to, and when this mechanism came about, and again, we have to give credit to Sadauda. Sadauda makes sure anybody directly connected to him had paid their loans. In some instance, I'm not sure whether he put it in this book, but I knew he intervened to pay for a family member in order so that the system would able to go in to recover. But you see, the lenience, the empathy of Sadauda was abused. And Sadauda was on a catch-22. He cannot be ruthless in putting people to account, which, yeah, it's very bad in leadership. It's a good in nature to be empathetic, to be lenient, but as a leader, there's a moment that you have to be very careful with that. But it tells you that the nature of our people very close to him abuse this. And I'll come to that. I'll come to that a little bit. But these things happen. The commercial bank, up to some patrons coming out, going to take newspaper ads to say that whoever take my property. How do you think? What do you think the poor soldiers? What do you think the poor police officers? What do you think the poor teachers? What do you think the poor nurses? What do you think the students and all the people facing the brunt of issues would feel? That you are entitled because of your relationship with the executive. We all know that it's not your education. We all know that it's not a wealth you inherited from your ancestors. We all know you did not come into the country with the wealth. It was a wealth created by giving you an opportunity, unfair opportunity that was not given to others because it was based on nepotism. It was based on nepotism. That's why today, when I insist on holding on to Barrow and Barrow creating his nephew, just as Yaya Jammeh did with Yaya Jammeh did with Pa Bojang and Sumana and others to run the Kanila Empire. This is where it's important. It undermines the state, undermines the state. But these are the things that happen. But there's another angle that Mrs. Ben Suwareh did not touch on. Another angle Mrs. Densher did not touch on, obviously, and she was not led to that, and she just gave as it is. It was the infighting, the lack of planned succession. There was no planned succession. Who is going to succeed? How is going to happen? Bibi Dabo was saying, ask the person, and I'll tell you, that's why people say from 92. What happened in 92 is still haunting the PPP. The two Congress of the PPP, you can still see the thing going on. The 1992 Congress that PPP had, that was about the third Congress or whatever it is, Mansa Congress. When Jawara said he was going to leave, he's not going to leave. That controversy. I don't want to go into all that, but that's where it started. And then Bibi Dabo, who people thought was brought into government after the 1981 coup to succeed Jawara. You see, you have to plan your succession, especially after independence. Senghor did that for Abdou Diouf. Abdou Diouf was groomed. A brother of mine who has read this book, I want to access to read in English. Very important. How Abdou Diouf was groomed. The Dakar, the Paris summit, where Senghor went with Abdou Diouf to Paris, sat down and just to school him, and that's more him, brought him back to the system, and supported him, and ensured that stability continued in Senegal. He was not doing it for his party. He was doing it for the state. That's why we have to understand the importance of political parties. They are part of the state, especially when they are in government. It's very important. That's why we need to hold them accountable. We need to hold political parties accountable. There's no succession plan. And what actually happened is infighting different camps, pulling apart. And the mix of it, in late 93, 92 in fact, Sirif Diba started to emerge again, likely within the PPP. Why I said likely within the PPP, we heard the testimony of the Captain Gassama, who was the ADC. He talked about the meeting. They had this binding political bureau, PPP binding political bureau in 1993 or 92, 93 or so, about the issue about bringing back Sirif Deba into the party. Was that not going to create a one-party state? What was that maneuvering about? That ensured people became distrustful. You see? What did it tell us? Overstaying in power. Overstaying in power was on people. That's why the two-term and everything we're trying to do with this constitution too, it's important. It was this overstaying in power too was another problem. It was not being dealt with at the TRRC. But we all know then what happened. It ends on 1994. But let's look at the environment, the background, the environment, circumstances that happened in 1994. The ambitions. You see, the ambition started from the PPP itself. Why do you think Bibi Dabo came back? Why do you think Bibi Dabo came back? Why do you think at the beginning, you'll be surprised how many people behind the scenes were talking to Yajam. But another thing is underestimating Yajam. Underestimating Yajam. I have not said the junta. No, Yajam. That's why I always laugh when they say, Yajam, the Kobe, then because you do then people don't know Yajam. Those people don't know Yajam. For us that have relationship with him before the coup, that know him and not know him just because of his buffoonism or anything, but took time to understand him. And actually, we were alarmed by certain things that he did or he was involved in, but he always manipulated the system and survived. He would not have, most people would not have stayed. He'd manipulate the system. And he will come out to, to make Gambians believe that he was a victim. That's a lie. He was a privilege. He was privileged. The, it's the context he puts what has transpired. He would have been sacked for many things he did. And he will never tell you how he stayed in. Connections Yahya Jammeh had with PPP, ministers, to the president himself. How close Yahya Jammeh was to the president and his family and his patrons. Yahya Jammeh was this person who was privileged to, in fact, to be covered in a blanket so that the people would not know who was coming to Jawara to inform Jawara. That's how he infiltrated the system, by playing counterintelligence onto the PPP. And that's why we had all those rumors on the PPP going on. The NSS were blinded. The IJM was their biggest asset. And I tell you, if 1994 coup failed, people would have been surprised. IJM might even turn up to be a witness. Just to give you the background of the person, he was underestimated. The ambitions he had and how strategic he is, how he thinks, and how manipulative he is. He can convince you, he can play ignorant, stupid, and everything. He can bring himself down to everything. And people that had that, when he was in government, people that had the things would tell you, Sumaraka, no, Ramatoga mom. And a particular person said to me, so-called our intel, said to me, Sumaraka, this guy is dangerous. So much dinga gene say I saying a make so could they grow because of the food. Yeah, he have sat with people and talk about the person and with person about the country and what he want to achieve, to try to lure these people in to serve him, and to the point of shedding tears. That's how passionate he can, if he wants to get into a frame to get what he wants. He do anything. He do everything. That's why you see some of these so-called intellectuals, they get mesmerized when they start working with Jammeh, and they believe everything they do, and they say everybody is the problem, not Jammeh. And he was not a stupid person. He wasn't a stupid person. Yeah, he took his intelligence and just went evil with it. He was underestimated. But the people that enabled it, there are many factors. There are many factors. We have to understand the environment we operated in. The environment we operated in. And I don't want it to sound snobbery, insulting, or anything. But Gambian, as a nature, we are very naive. Gambian, as a nature, we are very naive. That's how we've been brought up, to be naive, not to question authority from our parents, from religion, from anything. For myself, I was not. Naturally, probably due to problems I had, I am a different animal. I've tried religions. I went to church for 1 year. I never leave my religion. I just went to church for 1 year because I was finding myself. I did other things. I've spoken certain ways. I behaved certain ways. And people think that it was rebelling. No. It was how I see things. But because we are naive. And I'm not saying I'm not naive. I was not naive. I was naive. But to a level that's when I see the naivety of Gambians. When I decided to leave the army in 1992, it was a protest. I resigned. I protested to resign, and then I was discharged. With all my experience, things started brewing in the army. My experience being an intelligence officer, having all this information and dealing with this information, analyzing it, deal with, and didn't all know and understanding the state and my passion, my interest, not only dream it to military and look at this cover things and the background I came from, being informed about these things. I knew things are not going to be right. Have the opportunity going to Liberia, just made me give me a better frame of where we are. Came back and I said no. Because if I am here, I would be part of something. Where? I don't know. Probably dead or something else. I have to be out of this in order to have a clear view and see what can be. But I can tell you, I know how naive we are, being an intelligence officer. I expect in those days, being different level. And this is the Gambianness, authority and everything. And that's why it's easy to manipulate situation. It's easy to manipulate situation. It's not that we are hypocrites. That's not the word for it. It's been naive. But again, another thing is the issue of ambition. Government become the sole employer. Government become the sole. There's, there's there's not like a creative industry. People then believe now it's becoming different. People are wanted to start up. People risk. I have seen, especially women, that went to academia, got this much, and decided, no, that's not what I want to do. Put it out there. I'm not going into that office. I am a creative person. I'm going to use my hands. I'm going to do this and do that. We have seen that. Young ladies and young men. But most people just wanted to be comfortable. They have their bungalow, 2 bungalows, 1 bungalow, 2 bungalows. Oh, I can rent that. I can have this one. I can even marry a second wife and rent for the second wife. This bungalow here is to keep us. Those kind of thinking. I have to stay. Oh, I am a permanent. I am a this thing. I can be a permanent secretary. Time of retirement, a deputy permanent secretary, director. If I retire at 55, I do this. I be I'm a captain. I be a major. This was the thing. You see, the ambitions was that it was like we limit ourselves. We don't go radical on other things. And we see people radical of math or these things, or people that no. Mom janga mbir mu lum ko njëriñ xanaa gisuloo ko num dee solo moom mu dem jàng ba pare ñëw di def liggéey bi and la tax moom mu bàyyi liggéey bi sax di dem def li that's how it is. That ambitions and is part of our problems. But now it's ruthlessness. You see, now it's ruthless. It's not ambition, it's ruthless. Yeah, I'm totally ruthless. I'm not saying Yajame as the only person responsible, but that's what environment he created. He created to be ruthless. That ambitions there, a bit naive. And empathy. That means we have empathy to our detriment. That's what brings this naivety. And thinking about Gambian, and again, it's our experience. Look, I have never gone to bed in the army thinking that I might not wake up because my colleague might shoot me or kill me or capture me. No. Whenever you are there and you think that something's going to happen, we all knew. We all assume that no, we know each other, we're not going to do this to each other. That was how naive we are. We know that, or whatever it is. And whenever I have sat and heard, by interest and other things, I'm not going to say much. I have sat and heard and knew about love plots before 94. And every time, it's not about harming Jawara, harming ministers. No, it's just about how can we control, it's everything they plan. No colors are doing, how can we do it? Okay, that's why always, you hear everything they tell you, airport, we're going to have, then we're going to arrange. Okay, let's do that. Because the naivety of the soldiers too is, thinking that if you put, and that was it, if you put Jawara under control, the entire system would subdue. Everything is Jawara. It's not that they want to go and shoot Jawara, kill Jawara. No. As far as I know, I have never had hate come out from any soldier towards Jawara. Not once. And I have had extreme, and I have been in environments in that army before 94. But I have had hate and other things meant to the patrons and elites. And Jawara was the good person. Naka la ñoo def Jawara. And especially for those soldiers that went and served outside the Gambia, they went to Liberia. We appreciate Jawara then more. But one thing, because Jawara became our guarantor of safety. I'll give you examples. The minute you say Gambian, the senior rebels, I'm telling you, you say, oh, Jawara. If for some of us that been in intelligence and become compromised or get to a certain level, or some of us that go into escort and get into rebel lines, and these things, you'll be surprised. And there was this incident actually that I was in charge of the presence of Gambian dignitaries in Monrovia, in Hotel Africa, and that was Alabama with three other dignitaries. One of them was the secretary. Her surname is Carol. Is Bola Carol's sister. I remember that. Bola Carol's sister, very beautiful sister. And the other one was another lady. I think she works at the Ministry of External Affairs then. Three ladies came to the Hotel Africa. And I was listening to Amos Sawyer recently at a recording of their TRRC. And Amos Sawyer actually talked about the mission of the Friends of Gambia that came and helped. I mean, like people that supported their transitional government. And Alabama was there. And as sent by, I think she was part from the Foreign Affairs. And I was in charge. My unit was in charge of her security and the environment that entails, escort and everything. The hotel, we were in the hotel with her. Obviously outside the hotel. I mean, this thing, but she was in the hotel. And the night before she left the country, Prince Johnson had about her present. Prince Johnson, the rebel, and Prince Johnson sent a delegate. And I had to handle the delegate that night. And the difficult thing was, I had to take a decision. Where we are, this is how crazy things can be. Where we are, yes, there were Ecomoc around us, but I was answerable directly to the Gambian contingent. There's no communication. Where I was directly to Gambian contingent. That's where I take my orders. And when they came that night, I had to take that and I received them and I spoke to them and they said they were sent by Prince Johnson to speak to the Gambian delegate. We make sure we took all the safety precautions and escorted, and I went and I stood. I'm not gonna explain some of the things I had, but out there, obviously for security reasons, and Alabama had to come out and not even outside. It just stood by the door, and we just stood by the door. The guy was standing there. I was standing in between, and I can just get him out and close the door if it was necessary. But yeah, and she wanted they wanted an audience. Prince Johnson wanted to speak to Alaba, an audience, to convey a message to Sarauda. And Alaba spoke to me in Wolof to say, Mali or Manakulu important la. Manako Sudan is a security la Boko Halat. We are in charge of that or we just think. But feel na the important na luñ buga waxtaan jawara na ko buga jot. Muna mo mon baax na bon ñu arrange ko. I knew what time the flight that she was leaving the next day, what time that flight was going, the distance and everything. I did my own, and I knew I I knew I gave them a time based on what I think was best, the window that was best to do these things in case something else was going to come out of it. And obviously they came, and before we did agree on protocols, what's going to happen and everything, where they're going to things are going to happen, and that's how it happened. We arranged that the area that they're going to meet, everything was all right. This time I was at a little bit of a distance. Prince Johnson was with Alaba. I didn't know what they talked about, but took a message to Saudi. But what I'm saying is, in many situations, Gambian soldiers have found themselves, and because of they came from the Gambia, and Saudi was the president, and that was a security guarantee. And I remember when our cousins came to Liberia, Senegalese, and they started, and we briefed them. I was the person who went and briefed them to tell them to be very careful how these rebels are, how they can lure you in, and this thing, and they bluffed their way out. And it's unfortunate they fell into it. They were captured. Contingent of Senegalese soldiers were captured, but thank God, I think they all were freed later. But this was to tell you the kind of Gambia people we are. It's not the narrative, something. No, it came out of something. That's why we have to be careful. And I'll put that into perspective later. It came out of something. We are more of empathetic people, but you see, when you create envy, and it doesn't have to be in big. You see, bad things just happen in small portions, and they are toxic. Poison. If you want to kill someone, it might be a small drop of poison that kills the person in a bucket of water. If you want to flavor a bucket of water to be sweet, you need a gallons of it. This is an analogy I think people will get. This was the situation. Naive. Of doing Gambia Gambian lañ xam naa leen xam naa yaayam xam naa papaam xam naa ko ay kii yeah daf doon ñëw suñ kër daf doon lekk kii daf doon lii we all think like that. Some of us do. I mean, some of us do. But mostly that's what they do. And another experience I had was and actually this was an environment that led me to inform me to leave the country. And before that, that's another point Sagar failed to follow. And that was going to be an important point in the investigation, the death of Kurosisi. When I'm going to touch this thing, because if I don't touch that bit, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to explain why. When Mrs. Ben Suwareh said that when they went to Washington, this was the first trip they went to Washington, after they had their transitional programs ready and to go and sell it to convince the donor community or international partners. That trip, Mambure Njai was part of that. Mambure was the director of budgeting. Kuro was there, then they went. But Mrs. Ben Suwareh said something. He said that's what it was, because it was actually drafted by Bibi Daw. This was what Bibi Daw had put through, that if you do this, we do this, we do this. You see how Yaya Jammeh again use the intellectuals. So come on, do things for me. If I'm finished with you, I'll take you off. Because they believed the transitional provision, now rural council, we're going to serve. No. That's not maybe. But what she said was insightful for some of us that still think there's more to Koro's death. That Koro Sisi and Ibu Jallow knew, actually they thought this is what they were there for, but Koro Sisi and Ibu Jallow knew different. That's why Ibu Jallow, we have to be careful. Still now we don't take one-sided story of how much Ibu Jallow knew. Ibu Jallow knew more. And I think he have not, in fact, done any favors for family of Koro Sisi. Family of Koro Sisi. That's how much it's unfortunate. The TRRC have never been invited, and I think there's another story to be told around Kurosis's death, but it's not coming. But what I'm saying here is my experience of 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 of, of our naivety. I Because of how much some people knew that I knew the soldiers, because I they don't know how I knew the soldiers, but they know I was a soldier, and the thing. Some of them have evidence of probably knowing that I would know or I know. And we sat one day, and one of these quarters, it was a place that the quarters will come, and this quarter was so elated, so celebrated, because he just came from a meeting with Yahya Jammeh. And you'd be surprised if people knew who he was, and the environment there, and saying, no, the Ninja boys see chance, and the Ninja boys see chance, man, yeah, man. He started talking about, boys, yeah, come on, Ninja for the phone man, started saying things. Man, mama give it. Man, Yaya told you this, Yaya told you this, Yaya told you this, Yaya told you this. He turned out to say, small like a local hammer. That's how naive they are. Because they think that, well, because people wear uniform soldiers, they are not intelligent. Yeah, played him. I said, I was not there. He said, yes, you're not there. How do you know this? I said to him, I know likely person, in fact, not, I can I can give you three names if I choose to tell you who among these, one of these people would have informed Yaya about this before you've seen Yaya. You think Yaya would just invite you to see you without doing his background to approach you and for what you have been discussing? You think Yaya would just let himself in without having? No, he's not that stupid, You guys have to be careful with him. But luckily, he jumped. But many things were happening. Many people were behind the scenes because they believed that these boys were going to leave. Politicians and everything think, yes, it's an opportunity. Or when they leave, then we can, okay, let's leave Yaya to deal with some of these people, to level the field force, to give us advantage. For them, it was like, that was it. You see, these ambitions, some people see an opportunity now. We can get to, I don't have to, they say, I can be a permanent secretary, I can be a minister, I can be a this. You see, that ambition, that ruthlessness came out. You see, that's why I said how the ruthlessness came. Because when you break the system off, just break it off, no system. Now, you just have to gravitate towards me and you'll be someone. And our naive, we went through it. And obviously, from the political fallout, remember, political fallout from PPP, in fact, and so we had the coup d'etat, and it went on. This culture went on. It became toxic, and we become the society we are. It moved us to the society we are today. And the realities. Now, the issue about serving the dictator is two things. Being appointed by the dictator, political appointment is one thing. That's been any area that it's vested on the power of the chairman, or something that about that, because the chairman assumed powers that the president had, and even took more and absolute power as well. And and the beginning, that's another part of our naivety. Even our educated class that have read about coups in Ghana, coups in Sierra Leone, coups in Nigeria, coups in South America, and everything, they will still look at that and say that, no, we are different. Oh, this is going to be different. They'll still look at that. You see, that's where as I said, the critical mind comes in. You just tend to not give the benefit of the doubt to something you have no control of. You see, these are the things that you think of when you think of your safety and safety of others. Don't take chances of this. Just assume the worst case scenario. In the army, we said prepare, um, train hard and fight easy. Don't underestimate the enemy. Overwhelm the enemy. And prepare yourself and stuff like that. This is the where it comes from. They read all this. They knew about coup d'etats. But for Gambia, and just I got recent histories of coup d'etats from Sierra Leone and other countries. But they thought, no, this is different. I know. To the extent of people telling us, no boka sering, no boka sering, no ya, no boka sering. No boka li, osmalili, no boka class. Everything will come on different things. But that's naivety there, munyon. Now, the appointees, yeah, appoint you, is one thing. Two, you are a civil servant, you were already there. And I know benefit of hindsight. People say, oh, no, resign. You see, it's easy to make statements when you have never had an experience. You have never been in it. I respect people who went through it and decided to do that. They have the benefit, they can put, and that tells you again of their background. What background do they have? What did they benefit from for them to be able to do that? Do they have a background of privilege that they don't need to distinguish? You see, I'm not saying that this is the realities I'm talking about. Let's just, I'm talking about realities here. Let's just keep the judgments a minute. We get to that. The realities of what was going on with people's mind. Because most people look at your realities now and what are you doing now? That was what privilege they have. Well, how do they see things? That time, most people that will be thinking of this is the things that we think. Oh, yeah, whatever. One, we have to understand the realities. How they come about. Not totally. As I said, from my background, I would have resigned at the end of that. That's how I was built. I could have done different things because that's something that I was informed. Might not be the right thing, but it would be a radical thing. But I have to justify that for myself. That's something that controls me. That's it. But it's not that most people, especially Gambians, it's just been we are molded in a different way. Now we understand that they're civil servants, permanent secretaries, deputy permanent secretaries. They thought that this is what the service said. I am serving my position. This was the beginning. I'm talking about what just happened in '94. And this is the position I'm even to. I was not appointed by I was already in government. I had my contracts and everything. This is what I am. I was not even in the country. The country, everything have fallen apart. People that are meant to defend it didn't defend it. Not the soldiers, not the politicians, not the police, not the supporters, not the citizens. I am one of them. Now, this is the situation. I have to go back to work. Why did you stay in America? That's you asking him. Probably she's thinking different way. I've got my husband, I've got my kids, I've got my mom, I've got my kids. That's a Gambian thing. That's how we were. We were not adventurous. We were not radicals. These were the facts. You came back, you reported. What is interesting now? You see, the minute we report back, it's like, when you getting into the ozone, you put your foot in, feel it. Whether you feeling how cold it is. If you're a good swimmer, you walk into the river or let's say a river. You're thinking of how cold the water can be. If you are not a good swimmer, when you walk in, you're checking how deep can you go. And if you measure in how deep can you go, most cases you don't realize how cold the water is because your senses are telling you of the distance that you measure. But if you are confident, your senses are not talking about the distance. It's the condition. Oh, some people, yeah, obviously they're kind of and still think of the fear of going there. Let's say she came in back, and we can justify everything else and settle in. Because when she said that she went to the German and spoke to German and realized, because Ami is a very intelligent person, as we find out, but some of us that grow up under her, we know how intelligent he was with Arabic and everything. Find out, oh, these people are not scary as people think, or how military governments are, because familiarity. Now, the military government we hear about Nigeria, oh, they kill. They went and killed Uboti, they went and killed this, they went Ghana, they roll it. No. Yaya is very good at that. Come in, make his speech, pum, pum, pum. Yeah, this is what we're doing, with this. You remember what the story I told you about the Koto I had a conversation with? I was surprised. Yaya would be prepared. Yaya was prepared. That's why I say people don't underestimate. Yeah, and she said, provide benefit of hindsight even feasible. He said, look, and Yaya tried to justify certain things, and when she make a case for Asanjal, my minister was not corrupt. Oh yeah. In intelligence, that's what we call win confidence in order to influence. You have to win the confidence in order to influence. You have to give them something. It's like negotiation. Give them something. Give them a rope. Yeah, I used to say it in a rope. You see, that's and short. Here, lure them in. You see, I'm saying that. Look, it's right to go back to work. We can say different things today, but would I just have to say that she's gone back to work? The country have to grow. Now I am here to do my listen. Now it's until what you do. We'll come to that. But the starting is here. Generally, was not more concerned about the entirety of things. She had this scope. Sanjalo, my brother, my minister. Okay, the government. Okay, I can deal with him. He gave me this, give me escort and took me to do that. Or Alkali James Gay was there with Sanjalo. Do you know why Alkali James Gay was with Sanjalo? You know why? People don't know how, in fact, the micromanage. And I was not there. I'm just thinking, knowing how things work and to put us Alkali James Gay, for Asanjalo, it's very mystical. And thought about Asanjalo's father. I have to tread carefully with him. Another person, Alkali James Gay. Owes a lot to Alkali James Gay. And he understands against Foni, a lot of young people or people from Foni, benefited a lot from Alkali James Gay, and especially in the army. I have to be threatened. Let me put these two people together. I'm just saying my reason. And Alkali James Gay now, listen, and now tend to think that she have influence on Yaya because Yaya was listening. None lure in. Then that's where it started. You see, once the system is legal, you're involved with it, you are part of the process of illegality. You are beginning the process. But again, with reality, what else will be done? I am not here saying the argument, okay, Sukoda for Ken and Love Koda, but that's the fact. That's the fact. And let's talk about reality here. What other way it was going to stay on? Until what? Gambians come together to make sure it stopped. And that's what happened. That's why it ends up to 22 years. What I'm saying is I'm not going to excuse Amiben Suda or excuse another person for staying on to work with the system. But that would have happened. Someone will always have stayed on and work with the system. Because for different reasons. People will do it for different reasons. Few people will be privileged because of their knowledge of experience or something. Or privilege that some people, their responsibility primary, and they're privileged on they say, I'll go. Some people are not married, or I'm just married, I can leave the country. But again, if you think that you are a hero because you decided to abandon the country, some people stayed and fought. Some people stayed and fought. Yes, I'd rather not be, I'd rather not take part in it. But again, the people that stood and make sure that it's a country and they stayed and fight, I give them respect. I mean, I'm just showing these are the realities, but this is a reason, there's something that informs all this. And obviously, the degrees came in. And the degrees again, so let's look at the degrees in a sense. As I said, it's a framework. Yaya did not need a degree to arrest anyone. Yaya did not need a degree to overthrow. The junta did not need a degree to arrest anyone. The junta did not need a degree to overthrow. The junta did not need a degree to lock up anyone. The junta doesn't need to do it. But that's the reality. Now, but the government have to work. The government have to work with the people. There have to be a framework. Now, if you took part in that framework, you are part of an enabling. You are enabling. And depends what the framework end up to be. You know, that framework become the beginning is just what the beginning it was the constitution was already announced. That is done. And it's not only been announced, the president himself abandoned. Whether he was strict or what, he did not defend the constitution, what he tried to do. Nobody else did. The complete, listen, the country now is here. Now, what people will say, we have to work with what we got. And in every country, that's what we see. Two things would have happened. In every country that coup d'etat happened, something continued. Or if the coup d'etat did not hold, do you know what happened? A civil war. Control civil war. Now, it's for Gambians to see in these two things what you think that if the coup d'etat have after they announced themselves and everything and it failed, you think it will fail? If it fail, it would be a counter coup. What do we call a counter coup? A counter coup does not rescue the situation. It's just the change of actors. Would it restore democracy? It have in other countries. In Sierra Leone, it restored democracy, Madabi. In Sierra Leone, it restored democracy in Madabi. But is it a guarantee that it always does? No. We have seen counter coups, we have seen it in Nigeria. Buhari, where did it end up? When Buhari was overthrown by Babangida. And Babangida stayed, we know what went on. This is the situation. Then, if these are the things would happen, what I want to emphasize here, one thing first, let's avoid getting into the problem. Once we get into the problem, we are in a problem. And to be in a problem, we have to deal with the problem to get out of the problem. That's where people would have to be part of it. Either part of it to make it good, better, part of it to fight it, part of it to enable it. These are the actors we'll have. That's why if society fails, people who would have been sinners would be evil if society fails. If society works, people who are just sinners might just continue to be sinners. They will not be evil. If society fails, people who were meant to be good people might become sinners. If society fails, people who were meant to be accepted might just not to be good people. Would be people that say, hey, man, one day. We see them as good people. Because this person, with all his potential, if society have prevailed, this person would have been so creative, this person would have created a lot of art, and the society would prosper. This person would have been a brilliant doctor. How many doctors have been disposed of? By one way or another. Brilliant doctor, he could have cured in a lot of things or invented. They are as brilliant scientists, engineer to do this. But if society fails, these things don't happen. Do you know what we have would be heroes that are bad? And if we're not careful, those heroes even will not become heroes. We turn out and ignore them, forget about them, or in fact caricature them. As today, how many Gambians who have put their life have been caricatured? How many Gambians that put out? That's why I started from the First Republic. What saved us in 1981? Do we hear about those people? Do you see? This is the reason. Do you think other people would have put their lives today to die? People that know history. That's why I say people do things based on their experience, their background, the circumstances, the environment. This is important. And this happened. We will become these people. But end of the day, if you happen to take part in anything illegal, that's for all of us. But especially here for Ami Ben Suwareh. Yes, the degree number one, framework because of the overthrow the government. It's already overthrown. Something happened. We have to have a framework to government to this thing. If we don't do that, if nobody does that, what will happen? The soldiers eventually just go on. They just continue. They just announce. You think someone would take them to court to say that they announced the government which is illegal? They announced a cabinet which should not be because they overthrew the cabinet. People they overthrew in the cabinet even went and joined them. You see? People they overthrow the cabinet went and joined them. Or some people are not in they were part of it. I don't want to talk about someone. He's not with us. But part of the information when Lamin Wajwara was going to ministers, tell them that we have to resist. Do you know that it was one of the ministers that informed the guards that Lamin Wajwara is forming a resistance and got to this thing, to the council. That's why the ministers were arrested again, taken off their house arrest. Because Lamin Wajwara went around to visit them, and that's what happened. It was a minister, former minister. These things will happen. But if you take part in anything, if you served, if you failed to do what you're supposed to do, you swear to do whatever your reasons are, justifiable reasons, but it's the law. We'll come to the law again. It's the law. The law said this is what you should do. You broke that law. At the present, that's you broke a law. That's the agreement you have with society. Yes, you can justify with society, look, because I was not looked after, I was not this, I was not you have this one. You see, this was the wisdom I had in 92. I said, if I stay here, I might be part of something, and I will not have control over this. And my dear personal ambitions and intentions would be to do things better. What about if they get worse? Then I should be part of it. Let me be on a path that I might be able to influence something good for the greater good. That's the wisdom I had then. Not lack of ambitions and going on again. I had an opportunity. I refused. I have an intermediate. I was offered a lot of things because, yeah, I mean, knew my background on intelligence. It's someone I was close in, from um, 1990, we become very close. 91, 92, 93, we started to disconnect. I mean, 90, just when I left the army, we keep on a little bit and we disconnected. But someone I was very close, he knows my background, we talked about a lot of things, and he's a mystical person. And then some of my prophecies, he takes it to be something mystical, and we just, but the wisdom I had that I was not interested in these things. I got away with it, but this was it. I could have been in the middle of things. I could have been in the middle of things, but I left. Not that I'm scared of dying. No, but I didn't even understand what was going on. But I knew a lot. And there was a lot of things going on. But if I sit here, I'll be kicked like a rabbit. Or I'll be killed like a cockroach. That's what I realized. And as I said, unfortunately, I don't have the opportunity for those things to be discussed in a forum, but it will one day come out in a book. It will one way come out in a forum. I don't know which forum it is. I thought it would have been the TRRC, but it's not likely. But this is the reason, my decision to get out and obviously preserve myself. See, that's why I said some people say it and fight. I preserve myself. But again, to fight another day, and that's why we are here today. We continue the struggle. But when you take part in everything, or you fail to take part because of you are mandated to do that, or you took part, you do it wrong, or it turned out wrong, your intentions might be right. I mean, Ben Suwareh might win intentions. No, degree 1 is, degree 2 is, degree 3 is this. You see, and it comes out degree 3. Degree 3. That's kind of because of it have to do with victims, people who were incarcerated. And she had said something, and based on her background, that when we had prisoners, when we had people under custody in 1981, we had to set up this. Probably that's where it comes from. Look, we have to do this. We cannot just keep them incommunicado. But there's added layer. You see, again, when you deal with the devil, that's so much you have control over. Probably, I don't think that she would to tell them you have to add this bit. I'll tell you, you think Yajam is stupid? But again, she has to have owned it up because she's the legal expert. That they cannot have recourse to the courts. They cannot have recourse to the courts. The ultimate decision would come from the executive, which means the judiciary. You see, I could have spread this to explain what it means in a democracy, how it's done, because we had that in 7-7 here when we UK, we had to have a legislation, but it was called draconian, but it was debated and it was gone through. That's why it needs to be debated. That's why laws have to go to parliament. People represent you to discuss it. Now they say, okay, now the 72, because this was on special cases. I'll just give you an example. On special cases, they said we cannot, we have to hold people now because this is a the terrorism we have now is new. This is not doing with the Irish terrorism. This is about from different backgrounds. We need more than 72 hours to be able to charge. We have to get a new emergency legislation. Why do we need this? Because these people are using technology now, encrypted messages. They are using languages we need to interpret and stuff like that. We have to get the sophistication of what they do and so on. And they are, global aspect. It's not domestic. We need time to do this. We don't want to break the law. Now we have to make a law and amend this position. And now they were given permission for the police, law enforcement, for special cases of this terrorism, you can hold them to the time. But You have to produce them before a judge to review their detention. Not the police decide, not the executive prime minister decide, but a judge, independent judge, to decide whether it's merit to extend for a week or whatever. Now that's the safeguard. In this case, there was not. That's hard on the victims. But again, people can look at that and say, look, what could have happened? They could have been locked up there and not have a framework. This was Ben Suwareh's argument. That could have been not be a framework. But that argument too, you see, that's why we have to be very careful. Any government, be it military, be it dictatorship, they need legitimacy. There's a level of civility they want to exercise. There's a level of resemblance of normality, of legality that they want to represent. Until they corner to a certain level, they just frustrated, or they don't have their corner. They just do whatever. That was what happened in the impasse. Just throw it up, throw all the cards up, and they might just fall and give you an edge. But if they are in control, they micromanage things, and this is what happened. And it's unfortunate Educative happened, and she have to own up to it. What every actor should have done, be it Fafambai, be it Ben Suwareh, everything, to explain the circumstances, the background, what informed this, the circumstances they did, and own up. This is the environment we have to operate in, and own up. That this was my intentions, and regrettably, my intent, it did not turn out like that. I have been naive, because as Gambians, this is what we thought. You see, people accept responsibility because we want to learn, and it does not give us favors when people that we look up to, turn up to, still refuse to take responsibility. People might not like it. Some people might not see you in good light, and people will always not see you in good light. But genuine people and people would realize that you have finally done the right thing here. You participate in all this, and this is what you do. I admitted that we took in part. This is the reason we took part in this. This is my background. I was a civil servant. I was not hired, and this was the circumstances. We have to do something. We have to build a framework, and the framework was to do this, because without the framework, these things could have gone. And if everything had failed, things would go south. And this was the environment we have to operate in. There was an element of fear. You see, look, we are human, and as they said, the person who have fear because he have something to lose. There are moments we don't have fear because we are cornered. We just don't see on the plane. We are mad, but we take actions and in fact regret that action. Regret that action. They said, "What did I? Why do I do that?" But that's what your instincts give you. We all have fear. I don't want to die today and leave my wife, my children, my loved ones, and my others. But it might come a moment I might take it on. It might not even be the right decision to do, but that's my reason for taking it on. I give an example. I had a very important distinction that came from rebel lines, informal. And I had to escort, early in the morning, I had to escort this guy. He just came out. It was a very good source we used to have. And I had to take him over across that early morning. And, through to the military headquarters to pass it on to a Nigerian counterpart. This was to do with it. And as we were going, we have new Nigerian contingent that came in, and they were looking after that area. And I think there was a reason we had sense of alert and this guy. New people in a zone. And obviously, I was not dressed in uniform. The guy was not dressed in uniform. But I know that I had authority with me at that time. But again, I'd never thought about that. This person was new. Probably he doesn't understand why I will have the audacity to come through here at this time of the morning. I went through and stopped it. And but it's the way he operated. He didn't challenge me in the normal protocols or anything, and so on. No, he was just like loose. He was just like out of this thing. And he threatened, how should you remove? And I dared him. I dared him and I said, bro, you do this. I was stupid. I was not brave. I regretted doing that. But at that moment, I was just irritated because the urgency of what I was trying to do, and this guy cannot just understand. I was trying to preach sensible to him. No, we have to go through this. This is all I do this all the time. Get your God commander here. He will not get if I will shoot you as if I am an economic soldier, as I will be threatened. I was scared, but I was stupid. I challenged him. I could have been dead. Nothing will come out of it. Who have lost? I could have sparked a revolt. He could have shot me dead, and my colleagues guarding the opposite side might just rush on to kill him, and somebody else killed someone else, and somebody killed. That's how irresponsible I was. It was not bravery. But at that moment, did I think right? No. This is what happened when people are cornered. See, it's not a weakness to accept that, look, I felt vulnerable. I was scared. That's the environment. We are Gambians. It's a natural thing to happen to us to think of ourselves, our fathers, our mothers, our wives, our children. But that's to say, I'm not saying that you think about them and go and do a bad thing. But you took part in something, and because of provide all these persons, just said, look, I was scared. It was the environment. Because no one was standing for anyone. And they have ultimate powers, and I want to preserve myself. This is what happened. I'm sorry. And this is it finished. And people have accepted that. But the failure of that, I'll give you an example of this. Charlie, a guy called Malanjiba. People from Gunjur will know Malanjiba. I think he's in Germany now, or at time I think he was in the UK. He was my batchmate. And Malanjiba is someone, very nice gentleman. But he could really go mad if he goes mad. And there's this guy called Chare. Chare is his last name, I think. Chare, I can't remember his first name. I'm in this is in Liberia. And I think these people, in fact, they do this tribal jokes. That's something I know. We are all good together. But for this day, they had an issue, and they took up a fight. And when they took up this fight, there were young soldiers, young rebels that were under rehabilitation. Some of them were living with us, and obviously we separated the fight. It was in the evening, and it's finished. Late in the night, one of these rebels, this thing, woke up Chare, and to say to Chare, why not take your gun and go and kill Malanjiba? This is a young guy. This is what he knows. Why not take your gun and go and kill Malanjiba? Chare was shocked. And imagine, that's how naive we are, Gambian. Even though we know the background of these people, but we still shocked that this is how they think. But that would have ended it. You have to own up to responsibility and circumstance. And to say, Sulayman Ben Suwareh, they end up letting her go. For obvious reason, he was not the right candidate for what the junta wanted. That's where Fafa Bay comes in. It's not that Sulayman Ben Suwareh didn't have experience to be a minister or anything, but you see, you have to understand the other things that the junta wanted. or a government or people would need, who would do it best for me. Not that you might be the best educated man. No, it's not that Fafa is very educated, but this was again what Bibi Dabo did for them, that they want Fafa Bay to do for them. Remember, Fafa, as I said, was from the PPP. Fafa was one of the most politicized, apart from Lamin Saho, politicized Attorney General we have. And he has a beef within the PPP. And now, this is another point. Some people acted because of this. They have grievances to settle. And they have Fafa on their side. They use Fafa until they don't need Fafa. And now they started to move on to other things. In appointing people, selecting people, appointing people, Yajama was strategic on why not only the education of, some people don't even have politics, but there's a quality that Yajama see in them. And that's what he wanted at that time, and that thing to be done. And this is where we have to explain this. But again, for people, people saying that, thinking that I did not do a post for Ami Ben Suwareh. Ami Ben Suwareh is my sister. I don't know why people think, oh, Ami Ben Suwareh because of UDP. Have anybody seen me support Talib? Talib is my nephew, but I do my politics different. I do my politics different. I do my accountability different, and I hold Ami Ben Suwareh, and I still hold her accountable for the Ghana Commission. The way during the proceedings, I think she was not the right person to be there because she's conflicted, because she went on and in fact become a very successful person, which is not wrong under the dictatorship. But you have to act in a certain way and manner to able to survive a dictatorship, not only survive a dictatorship, but to come out well. She has the intellect. She has the background and everything to do well in any circumstance. In fact, in a normal circumstance, to do brilliant. But again, what I said, when we measure ourselves, we don't measure ourselves from how much we accumulate wealth, how much education, certification we have, but the wisdoms we have to live with our people, how much we impact on our people. With everything said that, this is the role she played. This is what, you see, people do not count the other roles that we played, or the lack of roles we played in society. I would have hold her accountable more onto the plug. I am not saying that. Yes, in the Ghana commissions and other things, I have and I hold on to the allegations that they do there was improper behavior in other that benefited them in disposing the assets as per the allegations from Alaji Quran. I support that point. And I have made a program based on that allegations and I call it the Gupta, the capture of the state by the Guptas in South Africa. I made a SoundCloud. I have the SoundCloud. My footprints are clear. But if I have a problem, I have more problem now with Ami Ben Suwareh than yesterday. The circumstances, the background environment. Today we live in a democracy. And I have a problem. I don't have problem with people who are successful. I don't have problem people who create wealth. I have a problem that with people that did not use that creativity or that wealth to impact society. Because I think those people would lack wisdom. As I said, we have to avoid to create a circumstances, an environment that ensure what happened before. In the PPP, we have to learn from that to bring us to dictatorship, and now we are sitting on the same. I'm not saying that people should not be ambitious, but to consider the environment they live in, the disparities, between the have and have-nots, or the accumulating or of wealth and influence, centralizing, creating an elite cliques to control. When the youth, the women, the population of red Gambians are living in this. I have a problem with her influence in financial industries and the influence being used in the politics of the KMC. I have a problem with that. And for your information, that's not a UDP problem. That's a Gambian problem. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that. That's what I said. Because how it impacts us. The projects that KMC went in, taking where they source out their finances with conflict of knowing that Ami Ben Suda have shares or have control. Accumulating of land and property. So look, we have to be realistic here because of, again, the law. Because of that, yes, some people say it's about morality, but look, laws should be dictated by morality as well. But wisdom, for human wisdom, should tell you that try to create a society. You see, I don't want to get into, but just give again. When I was explaining about masculine and feminine policies, economic policies, or social policies, social science, and Joe Biden just talked about pumping billions or trillions of dollars to the social sector because of the ills of America. They invest for those disadvantaged families, people bringing up kids. These are the difference. If I subscribe to socialism, this is the area of investing into these things. But I am a pro-capitalist as well. I'm a pragmatist, where capitalism do well in investment, in management, I support. But where we need to take proceeds to put in to the social sectors, in fact, to use capitalist principles, I support. Where we see in Scandinavia it works well. But it's not only a government thing; it's a citizen thing. How we run our businesses and everything. And if you want to hold Ami Ben Suda today, I think we should hold him for this more of the experiment of the influences, overwhelming influences she is asserting, depriving and calling competition, and not only her but others. As I hold Amadou Samba, as I hold the other people, and this is where society we should hold all. But today it was Ami Ben Suda. That's where it should be. But another point I want to bring in again. All the mix of things, when we talked about everything, Senegal intervened. But why Senegal did not intervene in 1994? That's why, again, we should inform. I said, the TRRC should be to inform us. Yes, for justice, but again, to inform us to not repeat our mistakes. And one thing I just want to add here is our relationship with Senegal. I'm not saying that Senegal should always serve our God. We should mutual. Gambia, we should be able to elect leaders. We have the leaders. We have it among ourselves, but we have to get off our chairs and armchairs. We keep on blaming politicians. We keep on blaming everybody. But those smart people keep on blaming, where are you? I'm not saying where were you. That's not progressive. Whoever fought for anything fought for this day today, where we all have the opportunity. Again, the background of this program is to create a background, a foundation, to create an environment that circumstances would be favorable for every citizen. We can all meet our potentials, not only to be patriotic citizens of the Gambia, but patriotic citizens of Africa. Gambia cannot live in peace or shall not see in peace if Senegal or our West African neighbors have not or live in peace. As Senegal or other countries, our neighbors, shall not live or see in peace if Gambia doesn't see or live in peace. That's why it's important though, so that we take this responsibility. When we look at the TRRC or anything, these things, yes, there's an element of the person that is in position or mandated, but that person is empowered and enabled by us, by not only accountable but all other things and the system. We have to have this holistic approach in seeing things to the content, not just personalized, not just to run out there to fulfill our emotions. Okay, let's label it UDP, let's label it PDIs, let's label it GDC, let's label it this, or let's label it Mandinka, let's label it Fula, let's label it this or that, let's label it Wolof, let's label it Mafia. No, yes, there's a cartel, which is an economic cartel, which every citizen and foreigners are in. But does it be on a tribe? No. Does it be on a region? No. Does it be on a party? No. You'll be surprised. Another opposition party wins an election, you'll be surprised. The same actors will try to capture it until we stop them to capture it. That's why today, if you are in opposition, supporting a political party, be very careful that you are in opposition. Once you go into government, the narrative change. Now you are a stakeholder, you are a major stakeholder, you are in position, and the interest groups will come in, and they will try to capture you. We all seen that in the 2016, and we have to learn from that. And that's why I'll tell you this, based on my national security instincts, background, experience, understanding, the 1994 coup became a Christmas, as I was discussing with a colleague, for Senegal. And that's why they never wanted to. They just observed first. These are the rules. They observe to install. They engage to control. They observe and sought win confidence to control, to influence. And that's where, again, you think if Yajim have played in certain ways, you think Senegal would have ever been interested in Gambian liberation? No, absolutely not. Just as France is doing with Chad? No. And right now, I'll tell you, France now is hanging, looking into the rebellion in France. They are talking to them, hedging their bets. That's what they do. Senegal, we have a mutual interest, but Senegal have a national interest to protect. Gambia, we have to protect the national interest. And when we protect that national interest, and the way we protect ours is to elect leaders who are capable of governing that country, have the mindset, have the education, those leaders that have the integrity to make sure they select and appoint Gambians who have similar backgrounds, who have the love of country. And this is where we avoid to call people or to come back to say that he enabled this, enabled that. Yes, an aspect of that will always happen, but if we keep on improving, we'll move. Let me just come on to the second part. I've taken longer. I never wanted to take long, but these discussions are always, it gets in there. But let's get on to Fatma Singh's testimony. Her testimony exposed her nature and exposed the nature of some of us, our mindset. I've wrote something. I have to go there. Sorry, guys, I'm not seeing any of the comments going on there. I'm not seeing any comments. Let me just concentrate on doing this. I'll read the comments anyway, and I appreciate them, whatever it is. I wrote a post. I said, it exposes the narrow mindset of the person that celebrates the arrogance of an enable of evil. Sorry, I've just got a text from my son. It's important. I have to respond to it first. You see, they come first. Yes. Yeah, thank you. And it exposes the mindset of the person. You know, we have different people. And this is, we're talking about social media, but I'll tell you, social media is a good indication of what's on the ground. And I know people say, oh, but what's on social media is on the ground. It's not true. It's not true. Social media is an indication of what's going on, especially if you understand social media. You'll be surprised how many people are not on social media but know everything that goes on social media because of they're connected to people in social media. I never on social media, but every story that broke in social media, they know it more than you because they've got what we call handlers, people that handle social media. What's important here, what I'm saying is, it exposes someone's ignorance themselves to celebrate someone who comes out to be rude, someone who comes out to be arrogant, someone who comes out evidence that they have an evil deeds. And again, we look at our background, circumstances, and environment. This is after how many years of complete. You see, at the beginning, people said, "Oh, I was naive. I didn't know this." How many things happened? How many things happened? And now we look at the background. How did, just ask Amidon, so how did Mama Singati got to where she got into cabinet? But of us, I can tell you, some people, yes, because of their still support of Yaya Jammeh. And now they see Yaya Jammeh in Fatma Singati. They will support that. And some of these supporters of Yaya Jammeh, they are not on the APRC. You see, we have to know this fact. Not that everybody that claim to support, some supporters of Yaya Jammeh, they are not in APRC. They support Yaya Jammeh because of they shared certain qualities with Yaya Jammeh. These people have grievances. These people are envious. These people have complexes. They are insecure as Yaya Jammeh is. That's why they would, but you know, because they went to school, they call themselves educated, and they want to hide. And they will go and hide into other political parties or so-called independent groups. But whatever they do, whatever they say, when it comes to society, you don't judge people on no, see what they talk about society or how they see society. You can see that envy. You can see the grudge that was in Yaya Jammeh. You can see the complex they have, inferiority complex they have that was in Yaya. And you see, it's not as an insult. There's a reason for that. That's why we have to be very careful what we create. That's why I was giving that advice to what we create as listen as elites, as people who have opportunity, who people who have mandates, people who have that privilege. Do we create an environment that the others that are not well off might be envious to the extent of carrying grudge and that grudge develop to hate and all the things? Do we assert ourselves? Do we create an environment that makes these people to feel inferior? I mean, these are things that are important. That's why I said Yaya Jammeh is in many of us. What different is they don't have the opportunity to show it. That's why they would continue to empower Yaya Jammeh in a sense of the ideas of Yaya Jammeh and what he stood for. And they would still, because of they think that they're smart, they're educated, they have to use a cover, and the cover is another political party or another independent groups. And but what they do and what they say is the same thing as what the Yaya would do and say. In a nutshell, they are programmed in that way. And if they, I mean, do is when they had the power, they would have done the same thing. They would have gone and victimized many people based on perceptions and other things, not on realities. Or they would not, in fact, respect the rule of law and others, and they can be very. This is a fact. It exposes this for anyone to do that. The other people are just petty. For them, it's what we're dealing is a game. We're dealing with a game. We have to score points. Let's go out there to see how we can score points. It's nothing to do with the realities. Not to have the critical mind to look at things and see how can we get the facts from here? How can we try and make things better from here? How can I just keep my peace on this because I am not adding to the greater good here? Can't we keep our peace? Because we could not just find a way to articulate the issue in a way, a progressive way, or to feel that it's best not even to get in there. If we do, it just keep finding it on, and we should not find it on. These things do happen. That's why I said it's exposed. Other people are just followers. They just want to be relevant. They follow people who are they perceive to be relevant, and they tap on that and to go on. That's why they are there. They are on social media, but they are on the ground the same thing, and they inform what happens on social media. This is what happens. I continue to say that, referring to her rudeness and stupidity as a brilliance of mind and intelligence, the measure of a person's brilliance should be based on the person contributions to creating the greater good, the person taking responsibility of wrongdoing and seeking forgiveness. It is not based on the person's education, as education without wisdom tantamount to non-entity. The progressive mindset would emphasize the importance of proceedings in the proceedings to find the wrongs to find the wrongs to ensure we get to providing the right solution to benefit the people. Why would anyone fail to concentrate on the content of discussion that is serving the purpose of a greater good and to celebrate the brilliance of the lead council in recognizing our contribution positively? What was there to celebrate? The person came out rude, arrogant. And if you think that person was intelligent, something was wrong with you. She exposes herself, she could have carried herself better and come out in a better light. Who are the people celebrating? The divisive. Would anyone want their sister to their mother to be celebrated by people who are divisive or people who are progressive? What did we celebrate? Her refusal to acknowledge enabling some things that are wrong. What did we celebrate? Any brilliance did she did? No, she used the law. Just as apartheid was legal. That's why we said morality is part of what informs laws, and we use wisdom to enact those laws. What did we celebrate? He used those laws to do things, not for the greater good. No, for and when she came out to say, oh, but the people are there I help. Yes, that's the problem we have. It's not about the individual people that you enable. There's a reason you enable them and this thing. That's a relationship you have. We are talking about the greater good. Until we work on to create a greater good, or selective in creating certain peoples, or enabling certain people, or supporting certain people to choose that as a better the barometer to say that we have done something for that country. It's wrong. What sacrifices we do or this thing should be towards that greater good. And especially, in fact, if we are in political parties, let us be very careful. What we contribute or what we contribute in, who is it benefiting? Yes, it might be to empower the political party. Is that political party standing for the greater good? You should ask yourself that. In a nutshell, that's where it is. It exposes our nature. But her progress to cabinet, and not her. Again, I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about a generation. What ensured around that time? What background do we have? The foundation that was laid after 10 years, 1 decade, and it was entrenched. The dictatorship become entrenched. We all know what it was. Do you know most people that were replaced by cousins or brothers? Cousins. And you know the fraternity we have in our families. Cousins relationships are comes out to be more stronger. Domi Bajan. You know what that means? In our cultures, these are things that we scared of. Or we so appalled because Domi Bajan Sulanyanale. Ah, sure, you can small Domi Bajan because so manyanale. Or you said ne so Domi Bajan and get follow ball. But you see, that's what systematically the system, the dictatorship, I'm not saying the argument, the dictatorship engineered, re-engineered society and got off of where. Now our naivety and everything, our little ambitions become ruthlessness. Ruthless. Do anything. Now you cannot swear to. Now everybody avoids everybody. Families avoid. And now we started to continue to even do worse, to point to the less able, to blame them for everything and excuse everything that happens from the top. And if I create a bigger pool of so-called elites, because of now it's so fluid. It's a conveyor that goes up and down. Everybody can top up to become a judge, to become a magistrate, to become a minister, to become an alcalo, to become a chief, a governor, to become anything. It was made possible. There's no system to hold anything. But there's a law, and that law can be amended at any time in order to serve a purpose. And there's something in the constitution that enables a commission. And that commission can be created any time to victimize whoever you want. How many commissions did we have in the Ajame time? What are the results? Did you see the pattern from the beginning to ongoing? Remember, we have a Wealth Declaration Commission who was held accountable. Yeah, was Ajame ever hold accountable? People could say Ajame ever. No, people that he fell out hold accountable. Doesn't matter. But this is what we had. That ruthlessness. And that ruthlessness, we see that in our infighting. And the gender, there's a gender element in this. Interests in the Ajame. There's a lot of infighting among the elites, women, because of their attention to the Ajame. You see, we have to accept that fact. And others, and families taking part and side because of in order. This is what enables it. And these are things we have to accept and understand how many people became what they are, not based on their brilliance and competence. I think she's from whole university. Tell me what she have ever written or done to have the arrogance to say that he can write this. What statements have he made? What impressed anybody in that hearing to say that she had a brilliant mind? A mind she had was to come to disrupt, not to be held accountable, not to be humble enough to come and accept responsibility. That's what she did. Now, what are you celebrating? What have we celebrated? But for different reasons, we do different things. Because divisive. But as I said, I would want to be distant divisive. I'll give you an example. The tax commission. I'm not talking about the legality. You see, as I said, apartheid was legal. Many things were legal. Especially when these laws are put in the statute book in the manner it does. There's nothing like a parliament. Parliament was dominated by APRC. How many times did we find amendments in the constitution that was not even legal? Just as we see the declarations and everything was illegal. And now, how can any legal luminati would come and start to talk about law in that sense? We have to understand what informed that law, the background of that law, the grounding of that law. Commissions been set up, the grounding of those commissions. You see, the ambitions, now ruthless. You have to do anything to be a minister. You have to do anything to be do this. And this was an evidence. And I'm saying this, and it's look, I don't want to do that even. I don't want to do that. I have an insight of what happened, how this commission came out. I have a friend. I'm not going to name the friend. She become a victim. She chose to hold herself and keep herself out, and I respect that. But that's her personal thing. But that does not make her own what happened. What happened to her, and what happened was the Gambian happened to the Gambia, happened to Gambia, and have a bigger things. But I will have the respect not to name her, to bring her into issues or anything. But one of the commissioners that Fatim, Mama Fatima Singate mentioned was a dear friend of mine, a family of mine. Actually, when the commission was announced or set up, that night she was with me in the United Kingdom here as a family. We were together. We went for a meal. Coming back from the meal, she had a call from the Solicitor General, Pahari Sambu. And Pahari Sambu and informed her that she was selected to be one of the commissioners. One-sided communication. I can hear her telling Pahari, no, that's not right. My role at the GRA, I should be, in fact, be coming on as a witness. I should be called up as a witness, but not to sit. Because the thing is, she had a specialty, a unique kind of skill set that they needed. She was an accountant, but she was a tax expert. That's all the life she does. She was a tax expert, she was an accountant. She said to Pahari, no, it's not right. Pahari said, no, I'm not confident in the body, and first. She finished the after wrap up her holidays quick and went back to Gambia. She was announced. They were short. But what happened is, she knew what was going to happen. She said to me, Hamna Newlin Pare. Already, they did send a list of mainly lawyers. And I am surprised that the deputy lead counsel did not pick on that. Just before that tax commission, the Bar Association were going out to demonstrate. They wanted to demonstrate for something that had happened. I think it was Antuman Yai, Antuman Yai, the lawyer. Antuman Yai, I think, was put in remand for the case. People remember the case. There's somebody about the legal things, and they were about to do at the demonstration, in fact, and other things. And yeah, Jimmy wanted to say, look, I just teach all these people lesson. I'm gonna go for the tax. A list was sent to her to audit their tax compliance. She did not take time to do that because they have a system that consolidates these things all the time. But because of it was a directive coming from Solicitor General. A month she went up and got the team to work on it. They came back, and as she told, they were all tax compliant. The people that have areas among them were tax compliant in the sense that they have an arrangement and they're paying of their tax as per their mandate. The act that governs GRA have enabled them to negotiate to recover this tax without going to the courts. That was it. Then the commission, they had the commission set up. She was part of the commission. And they had sittings, 1, 2, 3. After every sitting, they go and sit and put this in. Yes, Mort Sabali. You see, ruthlessness, ambition. Mort Sabali, this President Mort Sabali, was part of the commissioners. And Mort Sabali and Mama Singati were like this. I don't know now. And they thought they own of the commission. They own of the commission. Oh, yeah. And they had a conflict with this tax expert. Said, no, what you guys are doing are wrong. That's not right. That doesn't go like that. This Mama Singate who said that she's not like that, she's not really, it's not true. Mama Singate went out of her way to meet this young lady in the corridors after their deliberation and said to her, yo, can you love for Boba? Why have never Paris you? That young lady went home. Within hours, a letter came from Secretary General to rescue her from the commission and sacked. She was dismissed and sacked. Who have worked for the who worked for that government for about over 20 years, from income tax to GRA, over 20 something years, who sponsored her own education, not scholarship or government, who had opportunity to travel and sponsor her own education, to acquire the qualification of ACT and others, could have run into the private sector lucrative, decided to continue to do our passion into tax, to do the right thing. Mama Singate said that to her, and she was dismissed. But not only that, she was arrested and charged one count of negligence. Negligence of what she refused. You see, many people have fought. She refused to be part of it. She said, I'm not going to be part of this. What you people are doing is wrong. I'm not going to victimize people. That's why I said I knew. It's not something I think. I knew I had first class information. This is my motivation for coming out. They went and did their dodgy thing. And I want Gambians, and I'll try and get this text. They say, go and check how corrupted it is. Some of the companies they hold accountable, and some of the you see, even the mandate of the commission was wrong. GRA came into Act of Parliament was latter part, and they were looking at before GRA came. That was wrong. You see, some of these things were challenged. He's talking about things challenged by what she's talking about being challenged at the courts. Supreme Court is completely different thing. It's the legality of a commission. Yeah, it's in the Constitution. Any president has the powers to create a commission, and the commission does that. It's legal. But it's not that supposed to be challenged here. I'm not challenging that. That's the problem with the people who fall into that. Now they have to accept that that's the environment we had, and that the circumstances they came through, and they are whole liable, and hence the law cannot take them out. They are liable to pay for those taxes. They are liable to pay for those taxes, and they will pay those taxes. But I'm talking about the realities here. They went on and just do a better job. Why is it so? How many companies were called? There's nothing affiliated with Yaya Jammeh. Was Amadou Samba called? Yaya Jammeh was not called. Amadou Samba, how many businesses Amadou Samba had on other people? How many other people we know affiliated with Amadou Samba, did they ever call them? No. They went to for people they wanted, and she knows that. It facilitated. It was from that commission, both him and Sabali were elevated to cabinet. Sabali became a Secretary General, she became a Justice Minister. That tells you the ambitions, the ruthlessness. These are the facts. The other bit is about human rights. You see, how can anybody say, I am not talking, I just said an ordinary Gambian, that's how it is, who can read and write. Newspapers, internet and everything, access, especially a privileged Gambian. A Gambian who was actually receiving communique from human rights correspondents. from the UN, from Amnesty and all this. She was assessing this thing. And again, the commission have failed there. Commissioners and the lead counsel to hold her account on that. You must have seen this thing. You cannot tell me you don't know. She said I only know about lawful arrest. And that's not true. And to say that the chambers, when she was minister, people can remember Ababakar Drame. Ababakar Drame was one of the young prosecutors for the case for Lawyer Dabo and others. Because he knew what we were doing. He absconded, left the country, and now doing brilliantly in America. She knows what was happening. She enabled it, and that's the only reason Yahya Jammeh would keep it there and serve one of the longest, or the longest AG chamber, Minister of Justice, the longest, because she was doing a good job. At that time, everything was happening. How many arrests were happening? And prosecutions or whatever it is. It was happening that, it's our responsibility to know. It's not an excuse. Because he have the reports coming in from Amnesty, other groups. She have access to internet. She have access to the newspapers. It's not about foreigners talking about it. It's not about activists talking about it. These were facts. She's a Gambian. She was related. Some of our relatives were picked up. Our relatives were picked up. You will know. You will hear. Do them gente, do them ditch. Do them birthday, do them crop, do them fenning. You hear it everywhere. It was going everywhere. If you say that you didn't know, that says a lot about you. Now, again, I fault the TRRC, the council, the commissioners. I fault the lead council, but she was disoriented because of the rudeness given to her. She was destabilized. That's what she gained from this. But what happened here is, to say that you only know of this. What about extrajudicial killing? What about corruption? I would have asked, did you have heard of corruption before? When did you know about corruption? Did you heard of Dada Haidara before? Did you heard of Kanji Bakaji? Did you have Justice Mani? Did you hear of the April 10, 11? Did you heard of 11 November? Did you hear of, let's go, Babukar Gay? Did you hear of Papsen? Do you hear of, let's go on. That's disappearance from custody. Didn't you hear about the junglers? Didn't you, the frequent sacking and prosecution? False charges. How many people, how many permanent secretary at one time were going through the courts? You want to tell me you don't know? These are things that just tell you the kind of person we have to deal with. But again, not only her, but the kind of people we have to deal with, people that who have to enable, especially around that time. We all knew. There was a minute in 2016, an entire civil service was arrested. How many people were arrested at one time? All fake allegations and nonsense. And we'll get to this. Again, to amend a legislation to say that you do it for the benefit of the people, to gays, because of gay infect on HIV. What data? What information? Where did you get information to tell us how many gays did you know infect each other? Or where gay, or what or infect anybody else? How many? But you can go and amend. But you cannot go and find out about the people being incarcerated wrongly, being killed, and everything else. That's the only ill of society you know because of gay people. How many gay people does you know? She must probably know more than we do. How many gay people does you know in the Gambia? How many gay people did you know are HIV positive? What's the percentage of HIV positive who are gay in the Gambia? More of them, majority would be heterosexual. But the virtue of our population, we have an epidemic of gay abuse. What is it? It's a lie. It was all about the insecurity of Yahya Jammeh and playing up to that Because Yahya Jammeh was the most gay-friendly president we ever had. In the closet, the wives, and he was he's friendly to a lot of gay people we know around him, from protocol to bodyguards. Yes, and I mean, just leave it like that. Protocols officers we know, body sergeant, these things we know, people that were around the wife, beauticians or whatever you call it, people within hospitality, catering for him and doing other things, and his other friends. And his very his good friend that he continued to be a good friend till he left the Gambia. To an extent, I don't know how they was that he knew before he became a president. President, he knew he was gay. A brother of ours from Bakau. That's how much I'm going to say. But no, it was the hypocrisy of Yahya Jammeh for his insecurity. I don't know why he didn't have that insecurity. He still knows this. To victimize certain people. It is not about supporting gays or not. It's just expose that hypocrisy. It's a lie. You did it to enable Yahya Jammeh. Now, that's why I say people who goes into their thinking of listen to these proceedings and just end up deducting something else. I don't know, just know why do you think that that's what you should deduct from it. But let's go on. Apart from the violations, the Islamic State. You see, the Islamic State, again, it's an opportunity for Gambians to learn. It's not easy to introduce an Islamic State. It all depends on Gambians. It's in the constitution. Secular is in the constitution or not. Have seen that even Yahya Jammeh tried, and it would have never been illegal. But only if society is so disintegrated that anybody can come and impose something on us. They don't need a law. All they do is use our weakness, which has been disorganized, which has been divided and weak. That's why the reality should be about that. That's why we keep that moral courage, make sure the right things we do, and in order to avoid having to take the decisions which are absolutely putting yourself at risk. We should not have that. We can organize now in peacetime to build a society that we don't have to get to where that we do and taking is a matter of life or death. This should not happen. Then we have already lost everything then. And we manage to regain this much tells you what we are capable of as Gambians. We should always remember that, the strength of regaining things. And the Islamic State is not that difficult. But we have now seen again the role she played. I'll take I think the TRC did not deal with that properly. You see, when she said my verbal, especially you said you're the best writer, your verbal should be in print. We have to hold you on account. We have to get a paper trail on that. We don't have a recording of your verbal. No, you think when they're in position, they think of their smartness, knowing that they're doing something illegal, and they structure it in a way that they can think that they can rescue themselves when it matters. She knows she's related to Christians, she related to other Gambians, she knows how wrong this is on every level, you know. But technically saying to look, if you want to do it, I can tell you how to do it. Now this is the way you're going to do it. This is a serious indictment. Oh, no, my office was not using Islamic State. My office was not using Islamic State, but the entire system was. And you think that's okay? You okay to operate in that? My office was not using the headline Islamic State, and probably that's not true. Probably, I said. What's the point of that? The president's office was, at the UN we were, international we were, on the radio we were called. And the thing again about the directive of people to have to wear veils, and that thing too was taken lightly. It should be lightly. It's the beginning of what comes next, of setting up a committee to explore how to. It's not to, no. It's not to. The decision has already been taken. Now you are framing it to happen. And what Gambians did in here, 2021, because we have an insight. That's what they wanted. He said 2021, so that it will be in by 2021. The IMF was banking on by 2021, which is now. The IMF in 2016. Remember the contracts that been signed with these oil deals and everything. The IMF was banking that money would have kicked in. That's Adam Barrow is banking on. Thinking that the contracts he had with all these contractors would have kicked in because that was the promise. But in this time, the dealing with start by this now, the money would be kicking. He would not have needed money. And there were other things that have happened. I cannot get into that now. It takes longer to explain the strategy IMF did. But by this time, the IMF would not want to go for elections again. He knows the risk. Now he can just call himself an emir. Now he's got oil wealth. You see, when the IMF was saying that we'll come to a level, time that of white people will come and be Mindan in the country, that tells you how the IMF thinks. The IMF was not telling Gambians why he thinks like that. He was thinking that the amount of wealth they said is in prospect of oil and mineral resources that can be plowed into the small country of Gambia to be an emir. Emir, then I can be an emir. 2021, that's it, lock it up. Already the daughter has started to take lessons from foreign secretary. They've been attached somewhere else. You remember that? Preparing the daughter to start to climb. And she was trying to do the same thing that dictators do. But this is what we were enabling, and this is what we fought, and this is where we get ourselves out. It's important to learn a lesson about what they reveal about this Islamic State, and Gambians to be very careful how we deal with these issues and to get something out of it. But finally, just to, to bring it to this thing, I have to go out now. The current affairs. I want to bring it out again. You know, when I talk about the PPP, all the good things that they had, the systems, the structures they put in, the civil service, the plan they have to develop Gambia based on, opening it up as a safe haven for financial institutions, the regulations, you know, they make sure they send their Solicitor General to learn about all these laws to be present and all the people and this thing, they make sure they have Gamtel, they make sure they started working on the ports, in the infrastructure of the ports to expand it. They started to thinking of the airports and other things. That's all fine. But what broke all this? The corruption and leadership, the infighting between the PPP because of secession. The governance failed. The other things is those problems of the infighting, everything got itself into the other institutions, and the most sensitive of that is the security sector, where the politicization and all this and so in making it easy for things so easily fall apart without resistance or anything. And Senegal had a Christmas because of now the advantage we were going to have by building all these things, the re-export trade and everything. We were going to harm the Senegalese economy, or we were this thing. Now Senegals have used this 22 years now to be on top. Now we are depending on them. This is the situation we have. Now, what other situation we have? This is going to be, I'm going to use one story to explain this. Again, Gambia, people are silent. Political parties are silent. Parliament is silent. Civil society is silent. Institutions are silent. Activists are silent in the diaspora. I think a few people are holding on to this, myself, Babukar Siddiq, and probably, I don't know who else. Remember I talked to you about commercial bank, cooperative. I talked to you about the agriculture development bank, these three major investments. Now we have called Mega Bank. Mega Bank is a Gambian-owned bank. The taxpayers own the money because of the bank was another one of those Nigerian banks and was going to collapse, and the government came into rescue to buy the bank off and hold it, and the bank was profitable for a while. Adam Mabara comes in, Now we have a report that the bank have started to have lot of bad debts. But not only that, now the bank is going into to contract out 450 million. Somebody said it's 300 million. Now they agreed to 300 million, but the thing they put in there is 400 million. And who put in 400 million? Adam Abba, because it's Adam Abba's nephew, just as Yajami used to do with Pabojang. I'm doing it this quickly. People have talked about this before. But just one angle I want to bring in. Someone called Amadou Sane or Njaga Sane. Now, this is the person Adam Abba started to use as a front. Pabojang and Sumana have been used as a front to run things for Yajami. Now, Adam Abba is using. Why Gambians quiet about this? Our 450 million and Adama Barrow for a political project to say that this young man who have no experience or knowledge have no right to do this. The people that negotiating this have no right to do this. This is Gambian people's money, have to go to parliament, they won't do that. It's wrong. I'll get to the other part. Now they're doing this. He and two other people, someone, I don't even know their names, who they are no police in business or anything, but what we know that they in fact own the previous bank that collapsed money. One of them owns the previous bank. These are the kind of people. Now they are to be given this money to import rice. Import rice for do what? Said to control the price, to put the price low for elections. One, the money is not supposed to be done, and they don't have the capacity law, and everything is just burqa. Burqa. They will steal everything because now nobody's scared of anything. Because of they are stealing, everybody will steal, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the thing, and how they're going to distribute it, it's going to fail. It's going to fail. Gambians would lose 450 million or 300 million. Why are we quiet about this? This is just one aspect I want to touch on, to learn lessons from PPP. What Yajami did to us. Now we are going back to this. We regained our sanity, I thought, and now we're going into this. And we want to think that the young delinquents, the youths that society failed, and other things will be looking at this, and other people that have potentials are not being invested in, and other people sitting down seeing the country going the way it is. I will be happy. They will not have grudge, they will not have grievances and other things. You think the army, the police, the other things that are not being looked after, this is what we think we're doing. And now, when things fall apart, we start. This is the time ensure it doesn't happen. But let's see this again. There's as I give an example, a guy called Musa Dabo, Maro Farms. Maro Farms. This Musa Dabo is a civil engineer from America, Gambian from America, who have decided to do something and invest everything he have in a pilot project to prove that it's doable. Went back to his roots in the Makati Island division to grow rice, the Dahari Pacha area. And yes, he did of it, went through all the mistakes and everything and came out right. And produced a sizable number based on a cooperative with women and youths, farmers. Now, with his own investment, managed to produce enough rice with these cooperatives and process it and market it and market it. The packaging, we all saw the rice, how it is put in a package, beautiful rice. The demand is just like that. It doesn't, the minute this thing is gone, people will buy it, it's finished. He cannot meet demand. That's already a success. And I am not saying this. I am not dissing this. Go to his page, and I go to my page. I have shared one of the letters he wrote to his customers to explain that he cannot meet demand. Everything that have been produced is gone. The rice is quality. I have to read this letter. You forget. It's a very small print. I have to struggle here. It said. Subject Maro rice availability. We at Maro Farms Limited in CRR want to thank our customers and potential customers here and in the diaspora for their support. We did always receive overwhelming and overwhelming and for over overwhelming and for over recently support. Unfortunately, the demand. Okay, it said demand for the produce. The demand exceed our. What is saying that the demand is exceed what they produce. This is um, this is the situation. This is a success. Except the guy have done everything that's right. And some years ago, about 2 years ago, so some years ago, I learned about this issue that the guy is trying to get $10 million loan from government because he understands that the commercial loans are not viable to do this business. He went to government, give me $10 million loan, I'll pay. And I'll create a bigger cooperative of more women and youth farmers. We go into bigger these things and to produce. I agitated this. Musa Dabo himself reached out to me because of it. It went viral. And the ministry, I'm not sure. He thought, or he pleaded with me, or can you just kind of do a retract? I said, no, I am not going to retract. If you give me anything to clarify or qualify, I'll do that. Because what I have is fact, and you know it's a fact. It has been in the process and it has been delayed. And I don't think Adam Abara have any ambitions. But my position here is I am doing it for you to get the support that you need for us to benefit from it. Now, if you tell me that you are confident that you're going to get this money, you've been promised you're going to get this money, and you want me to go and to give that positive feedback so that the people responsible for this would not be intimidated or anything, I will do that. I have no pride in this. I have no score just to see you achieve this. Or he said, thank you, do that. I did that and did this. The same way I send the messages in different languages to get it. We sat, wait. Nothing happened. And he was promised in weeks. Nothing happened. In months, nothing happened. Parliament. It came out in Parliament, Adam Abba read that Maro farms will be given a loan for this to do this. Nothing happened. And Sana Jawara, member of Parliament, just confirmed this. When I wrote this story, I was not even sure if everything was finalized or not, whether he got the money back or not, because I've not spoken to him since. I said, I don't think. I'm not sure. Sana Jawara have confirmed that still now Maro farms have not received this $10 million they asked for. Sana Jawara said, Sulayman Ben Suwareh, you are right. However, some of us aren't quite about the issue, as it is all about accountability. The president stood in National Assembly and misled the country by saying he has instructed and a loan of 10 million is being facilitated for Maro farms in their effort to link import to local produce production of rice. This I found that is bogus claim, as the young entrepreneur is still chasing after that loan from the government. Instead of facilitating such businesses in such a scheme, I understand they look for more convenient partners to set up and pre-finance with a whopping 450 million rice importation business. I don't have a problem with Gambians benefiting some form of support from their government, but how does this help our effort to boost local production? Besides, how could this not be perceived as a nepotism and blatant abuse of office? If the allegations are any true that the beneficial of these government interventions are related to the president. On the part on the part of what is the National Assembly going to do about it, I can tell you for free that we can't do nothing as we lack the cooperation within and resolve to salvage this country from this and the many economic exploitation happening every day across every sector of our government administration. Corruption is too much in the country, and in its people and it's people like you, and who are instead abused and castigated for speaking up against the money. This is the situation. The guy did not get the 10 million. The president said this in House of Parliament, misled the country. But the president is quick to go to on a scheme to pump 450 million, 10 million, 450 million. Maro farms already says, do we understand if we manage to produce enough rice for self-sufficiency, what does that do to our economy? In fact, to export. No, we don't have that budget. Import, corruption, everything. And we sit back and think we can develop. And we sit back not to take these issues, but we can go on. Support Mama Singate, support Nakalatura, Ami Pensula. You think that's our problem? Maro Farms supposed to get this thing undone? You think you support Adama Barrow for scamming us 450 million? You see, if we have self-sufficiency of rice, a lot of other issues would have been dealt with. The balance of payment deficit, a lot of things will be dealt with. The availability of foreign currency, that's what economics do. You produce, invest in your productive sector, but that's not happening. Guys, this is where we are. And unfortunately, time is just going to the double time, and we have to get out of it. I never wanted to take this long, but I am going to continue on this. The 440 million, just as the one is disbursed. If I have the evidence that is gone out, that's it. I'm going to put a timeline and I'm going to follow it until accountability on that. Just as I'm following the drugs until accountability on that. And these are the things we need to escape. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good day. Thank you.